What's up, guys? This is Jay from COI. So on Friday, Steve Bannon was on Bill Maher's show. I forgot the name of his show, to be honest. I almost said last week tonight, but no, it's a much better show. Real time with Bill Maher, and it was funny, honestly, to watch the two go back and forth. And I have to say, I'm not a Steve Bannon fan. I respect him, and you kind of have to respect him. It's like a gun or a snake or something like that. Like they're dangerous, so you respect them. But it doesn't mean you're a fan. Doesn't mean you have to like them. And Steve Bannon is, I think he, at his heart, I think he is like a true racist. And I don't say that about many people. I also believe that he's an asshole, but he is very smart. Very, very smart. And he's one of the best like political tacticians of our day. And on the other hand, we have arrogant, lazy Hillary Clinton. I mean, Bill Maher. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Yeah, I mean, no, Bill Maher though he is that centrist, virtue signaling, identity politics kind of. I hesitant to say comedian, but yes, comedian, slash political analyst, I guess. And he very much is a mix between goddamn kids need to get off my lawn and I'll do whatever MSNBC says. And that's where you can tell how lazy he is because he agrees so often with mainstream media, doesn't have an original thought. He never once questioned Venezuela, didn't say shit about Juan Guaido, didn't question Russiagate, didn't question any of it. It just goes along with whatever the Democratic side is pushing. And none of these are his actual belief system. And that's the problem. That's the problem with Democrats, by the way, is they don't have a political belief system. And not all Democrats, but I'm talking about your central Dems, your Biden, Buttigieg, Klobuchar fans. Most of them, it's just I don't want to body shame anyone or make fun of transgenders, and fuck your guns. I don't care if black people need them in the inner city to protect themselves because they don't want to call the cops. I don't care about any of the problems we have in America if it means that I can get out of this looking like a better person and not have to change a single thing. Oh, well, the establishment tells me that Jeff Bezos is a really nice guy. He's on our side, so I'll vote for him, or I'll vote for the guy who likes him. I mean, that's the centrist Dems. And so when Steve Bannon and Bill Maher went up against each other, this was really easily proven that one of them is substantive and one of them is hollow. Every single topic they talked about, Bannon was able to take it, digest it, respond to it, and then push back a different question to Bill Maher. And Bill Maher was like, "But but Trump is like a dictator, and I don't think he's going to leave office if he loses." Yes, Bill, we get it. You don't have to fucking bring that up every 2 goddamn seconds. You don't think he's going to leave, but what the fuck do you think he's going to do? He's a 77-year-old man. At that point, probably 78, 79-year-old man who's fat and out of shape. But you think he's going to go down like Scarface? Come on. But that's the entire interview. Is Bill Maher unwilling to answer any questions? Bannon brought up Iowa and the Bernie Sanders mess, and Maher just basically just wiped it off. I'm not going to talk about that. Moved on about his same like hollow, shitty narrative that really just proved how politically weak Bill Maher is. And how at this point he's probably been phoning it in for the last year or two. And maybe that's why I can't stand his show anymore. It's just obvious that he's lazy and unprepared. And as much as he probably doesn't want to admit it, he is the same Republican that he was calling out just 10, 20 years ago. When he was out doing religious and talking about, W. Bush. That's who he is now. And even Bannon looked to be more informed and quite superior than Bill Maher. So yeah, you can find that clip on YouTube. It's pretty decent to watch that. Also, one note that I want to say, and as a Bernie supporter, it was nice to see that Steve Bannon did acknowledge the fact that Trump and Sanders have a similarity, and that's populism. That means that essentially they acknowledge that the power should be in the hands of the people. That income inequality is a problem. Now, and at that point, by the way, if I was Bill Maher, I would have started asking questions about the tax cuts. I would have been asking questions about the anti-populist things that Trump has done, but he didn't. Not the point. The fact that Bannon, though, did say, yes, they share those similarities, but Bernie has a way different solution to these problems. I appreciate that because I guarantee you most of your thumb sucking centrist Dems who watch this were like, see, I knew he was just like Trump. That's why I'm not voting for Bernie. And speaking of Donald Trump, Trump had a really crazy 24-hour period in which and we talked about the State of the Union address, but where he started off by firing Lieutenant Colonel Vidman and Gordon Sondland, which if I'm guessing Gordon Sondland was just incredibly happy to get out of there. Lieutenant Colonel Vidman was a really decorated, esteemed war hero. I don't know about war hero, but he put his time in. And I'm not going to sit there and talk about how great he was, but it was an embarrassment for him to be fired because Trump was being vindictive. And a guy like that, I don't really feel like should lose his job for speaking truth to power. And Trump really showed like what kind of a real bitch he is. I wish there was a better word. But by the way, that is a felony to do that. No one has really brought that up, but it is. It's against the law for Trump to have fired him because um, he testified against him. But it doesn't matter because right now Trump can't be hurt. There's nothing that can happen. The only thing that can hurt Trump at this point is bacon. You know, I mean, it's going to be his arteries that get him before anyone else. And he can pretty much do anything. So then he went into the prayer breakfast and he went in just guns ablazing. Which, by the way, if you don't know, this tradition is usually bipartisan and it's very respectful and no one really says anything. There's some interesting things about the prayer breakfast that I could go into, but I'm not going to. But it, in and of itself, is garbage. The whole idea of it and the people associated with it, it's trash. So I'm not like, oh my god, I got the vapors because of what Trump said. I don't care. Honestly, if I was the president, I would show up just completely naked and put my balls in the serving dish. Because, yeah, it's a really fucked up establishment. But it was the fact that he began to tout this list of people he's going to go after. And, you know, Adam Schiff was on there, Nancy Pelosi was on there, Mitt Romney, who being at the prayer breakfast, he was like, well, this guy's using faith to go, to do things he didn't do before, which I thought was really funny considering, you know, they're at the prayer breakfast. And a lot of these people who are associated with the prayer breakfast, they like really believe the shit. So I'm sure that Trump made quite an impression on him. And in fact, the behind the scenes is I would seriously pay like pay-per-view money to see. Like some of those psychotic, super religious, we're gonna globalize the world under Jesus Christ people who were there. I would have loved to see the interactions with them and Trump. That would have been amazing. And finally, the last update on the Iowa caucus. Um, I say last, but I don't mean it, and I know that I don't mean it. um, they tallied all the numbers up, and Pete Buttigieg won by 0.1% when it comes to the SDE. Not the popular vote. Bernie still has the popular vote by 6,000. The realignment vote by 2,500. Um, Bernie crushed him, basically. But due to this weird delegate system that they have, Pete Buttigieg won. And there's a huge question mark on that. But at the moment, even though there is a 0.1% difference, Pete Buttigieg was given the 14 delegates, while Bernie Sanders was given 12 delegates. Elizabeth Warren received 8 delegates. Joe Biden received 6, and Amy Klobuchar got 1. And again, it's the giant question mark, which we already know the answer to. Is this concrete? And no, it's not. In fact, I I've heard multiple different camps say that they're going to ask for a recanvassing and a recount. Bernie Sanders is being one that I heard directly today that they're already planning to do that. So it's not going to stick, but this is what we know right now. And as much as I would want to talk about Mayor Pete and how odd it was that he um, seemed to get 2 delegates for a 0.1% and actually losing the popular vote. And I would love to go on about how he was a little bitch. And apparently, when the DNC first released the numbers at 62%, um, Pete Buttigieg was happy, and everyone was happy because Buttigieg was winning. But then once the satellite votes came in, and a lot of those other areas started to come in, and Bernie started taking a lead, then Pete Buttigieg called and talked to Tom Perez, and Tom Perez went on Twitter and said, "Enough is enough. I'm doing a recanvassing." I would love to talk about all those things. I had a bigger issue, honestly, and it's weird because obviously this is an objective kind of standpoint for me since I am a Bernie Sanders fan. But my bigger question goes down to why did Amy Klobuchar only get 1 delegate? The the numbers between her and Biden were a lot closer than, let's say, Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. Bernie pretty handedly beat Elizabeth Warren, and yet there's like a 4 delegate separation. But between Klobuchar and Biden, it was really tight. And for some reason, she was only given 1 delegate, and Biden was given 6. I really think that this entire caucus situation, we just need to be done with. And in so many ways, I think we should be done with delegates, super delegates, um, all of that bullshit, and just go with the popular vote or ranked choice voting. Either one. I would welcome either of those. I think in my perfect utopia, we should have maybe closer to a parliamentary system. But I don't think that will ever happen because no one understands. I think most people who are in a parliamentary system don't understand it. It really would be a much better situation than what we have here. But and that, yeah, it kind of goes back to the whole Bannon uh, Maher conversation because they were talking about this too. And Bill Maher was arguing that we need to do away with the system we have now because it gives an unfair advantage to the Midwest. And yet, and this is what I find funny, doesn't say, well, Bernie Sanders won Iowa because he won the popular vote. It's just kind of funny. When it works against them, they don't want to go with that mentality. And then they don't understand, well, why don't the conservatives want to just go with a popular vote kind of thing? Because every time it'd be against them. Like, but whatever. Again, we don't really know. I do just want to pay attention close to the delegates and who's getting what. I think a 0.1% shouldn't get 2 more delegates. I also feel like that's something we should keep our eyes on because people like Deval Patrick were getting Bernie Sanders' delegates, remember? And there's been no word if they updated that or not. In fact, the last thing I saw was that Bernie had 12 this entire time. So I don't know if he was getting any of that Deval Patrick was given instead of Bernie. But the whole thing, it's going to be redone again. It's a complete mess. And it has done nothing but really help Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump, the two people who it was basically aimed to hurt. Uh, Anyway, I'm curious what you guys think about all those stories. That is it for the week in politics, or the weekend, I should say, in politics. Hopefully, this coming week is not as pathetic, but it will be. That's the great thing about politics. You think, God, it couldn't get any shittier than this, but it always does. Anyway, thanks a lot, guys. Have a good one.